recipes. For us, it is important to know as much about the cook as his or her dishes. Cookbooks are living traditions. They reflect back to us who we are as individuals, as a culture. It was the French gastronome Jean-Anselme Brillat-Savarin who first wrote, "Tell me what you eat, and I shall tell you what you are." I can modify that to fit our modern times. Show me your recipes, and I can tell you who you are. When I wrote my first cookbook, Smoke and Pickles, back in 2013, I reflected on this idea a lot. It was a 2-year process writing that book. To research it, I read hundreds of cookbooks, everything from Apicius to Mrs. Breeton's Book of Household Management, to Edna Lewis's The Taste of Country Cooking. For that book, I wanted to create recipes for the home cook, but I also knew I had to tell the story of how I had gone from being the child of Korean immigrants in Brooklyn to a Southern chef in Kentucky. It's an unconventional story, and I knew it would be an important one to explain why I cooked the food I cooked. You see, I would not be the chef I am today without the influence of both my heritages, my Korean childhood in Brooklyn, and the traditions of Southern food I've learned to love. Because my life has been an improbable journey from Canarsie to Kentucky, an unlikely coupling of Korean and Southern cuisine, I'm fascinated by other unlikely couplings that make up the narrative of life in America. The title of this book, Buttermilk Graffiti, is poetic shorthand for my life. Buttermilk is the iconic ingredient of the American South, one that I not only learned to cook, but grew to love. Graffiti is the art form that first inspired my identity, the thing that connects me to the memories of my youth in Brooklyn in the 1980s. Each word by itself is important, but one-dimensional. When they come together, though, they become the full story of who I am. If my food were just one or the other, it would be fine, but it wouldn't be as uniquely layered. While I was on tour for Smoke and Pickles, I visited a lot of places. It was the first time I got to experience this country on a rigorous schedule, visiting city after city, day in and day out. I could be in Milwaukee one day, and then New Orleans the next, and with each new town, I saw the culture of America unfolding before my eyes. The experience gave me a perspective I'd never had before. There were many lonely nights spent in airport bars or walking unfamiliar streets, and it was during that tour that the seeds of this book germinated. I ate great food everywhere I went, but more than that, I listened to beautiful, unlikely stories told by people from many walks of life. Stories that were not necessarily about food, but that helped me put what I was eating into a greater cultural context. I think about the town of Lowell, Massachusetts, and the Cambodian immigrants who are creating a lasting influence on the city's cultural and culinary landscape. It is a fascinating example of the American dream and a new American cuisine that is cropping up all over small towns everywhere. But that story of Cambodian immigrants is incomplete without the tale of an Irish boxer who fought his way out of the poor tenement housing projects to become a local legend and owner of the best bar in Lowell. On the surface, the two stories have nothing to do with each other, but to me, they are inseparable. They give texture to a time and place in America where we are witnessing one culture give way to another. Just as my life has been an unlikely progression from graffiti to buttermilk, I see the soul of a city like Lowell, linked by a boxer and a chef of Cambodian cuisine. The connection may not seem evident at first, but it exists and will forever shape the history of Lowell. I cannot eat a dish without wondering who cooked it and what her story is. For me, the discovery of a great dish is not the pinnacle. It is just the beginning. The fun part is figuring out how a cook creates a dish and why. Was she out of the ingredient called for in a recipe and improvised? Did he embellish a dish plucked from a childhood memory? There is always more to the story than the ingredients on the cutting board. These stories, I believe, are the building blocks of a new American cuisine, one taking root all over the country. I love food made by immigrants.